Welcome back to the LeverUp AMA series. I'm Marcus, and today we're doing something a little different. We're going back to FTX. Everyone's heard the story by now, but I want to actually walk through the mechanism of what happened and what it means for how people should think about self-custody today. James is here from the LeverUp team. James, welcome back.
Good to be here. And yeah, FTX is one of those stories everyone thinks they know, but the mechanism underneath it is worth being precise about.
Let's start there. In as few sentences as possible, what actually happened?
FTX and FTX US were exchanges. Alameda Research was a trading firm. Both were controlled by the same person. According to what came out in the criminal case and the bankruptcy proceedings, customer deposits ended up being transferred to Alameda and used to cover its trading losses. When those losses became public, FTX couldn't meet withdrawal requests. It filed for bankruptcy in November 2022, and Sam Bankman-Fried was later convicted of fraud.
So walk me through the expectation that got broken here.
The reasonable expectation customers had was simple. An exchange safeguards your assets and only uses them the way its disclosed terms say it will. What the bankruptcy proceedings showed is that customer funds were used for something well outside that, covering a related trading firm's losses. If your funds were still sitting on the platform when withdrawals froze, you were exposed to that. If you'd already withdrawn, you weren't.
Now it's tempting to file this under one bad actor did a bad thing. Is that the right takeaway?
I'd push back on that a little. It undersells what actually happened. This wasn't a rogue employee or a one-time lapse. It exposed something structural about centralized custody in general. Depending on the venue and the law that applies to it, holding funds on an exchange can mean you're holding a contractual claim against that exchange, not direct control over specific assets. That means you're relying on that exchange's own custody practices, its accounting, its asset management, all of it.
And most of the time that claim does get honored.
Most of the time, yes. Plenty of centralized exchanges run with real segregation and real custody controls. But most of the time isn't a security guarantee, it's a trust assumption. And trust assumptions tend to fail exactly when there's the most pressure on them to hold.
This is where the phrase comes in. Not your keys, not your coins.
Blunt but accurate. If you don't control the private key, you don't control the asset. You're relying on whoever does hold it to act in your interest.
So let's get concrete. What does self-custody actually change mechanically?
Self-custody means you hold your own private key instead of leaving it with an exchange. In practice, that's using a wallet like MetaMask or Rabby instead of parking assets in an exchange account. And here's the important distinction. The failure that took FTX down happened at the custodial and organizational layer, how customer funds were held and used. It did not happen in the underlying blockchain's ownership records. The blockchain did exactly what it was supposed to do the whole time. Self-custody is built to preserve that distinction. You're relying on the chain, not on an operator's internal ledger.
And that's the same logic that makes DEX trading structurally different from a centralized venue, independent of whether that specific exchange is trustworthy or not.
Exactly. When you're trading through a self-custodial DEX, you're interacting with on-chain contracts directly from your own wallet, instead of transferring funds into an exchange's account for them to hold and manage on your behalf. Execution happens through smart contracts whose transactions and state you, or anyone, can independently verify. Settlement happens on-chain, where it's verifiable rather than just reported to you after the fact.
I want to be fair here, though. That doesn't mean on-chain trading has zero risk.
No, and I'd push back hard on anyone who claims that. Smart contract risk is real. Oracle risk is real. Protocol design risk is real. Those are different categories from custodial risk. Not a replacement for risk doesn't exist here. What on-chain, self-custodial trading does remove is the specific failure mode that took down FTX, a centralized operator commingling and using customer funds it was never authorized to touch. That mode of failure just isn't available when you're never handing custody over in the first place.
So bring this back to LeverUp specifically. How does this show up in practice?
There's no separate deposit step that moves your funds into a platform-controlled account. Your wallet balance is your trading balance. You interact with it directly through LeverUp's on-chain contracts when you open a position. Execution and settlement happen on-chain, so positions, collateral, and liquidations are all verifiable. You're not taking anything on faith from a company's internal ledger.
What's the one-line takeaway you'd want someone to walk away with?
The question was never really whether an exchange says it's trustworthy. It's whether the architecture makes trust necessary in the first place. That's the practical lesson FTX taught the hard way.
James, thanks for walking through this one carefully.
Anytime.